What is going on, everybody? Thanks for tuning in to another video. We are finally starting to get some mileage on the Husky. I'm at 120,000 miles, so I thought I'd make a video going over kind of my review for the first 100 miles. I'll make another one when I get to 1,000 because that one's probably going to be the more in-depth review, but this is kind of more just like a first impressions type. If you guys are new here, I'd appreciate the sub. We're almost to 1,000 subscribers. I'd really appreciate it. It costs you nothing and it really helps me out a ton. Well, let's go ahead and get right into the video. I bought this bike about a week ago now, and I've done 120 miles. Most of these 100 miles have been pretty short trips because the bike is, I'm trying to break in the bike, so I don't want to just go jump on the highway. So almost all 120 of these miles are riding around pretty slow. The first thing I noticed is it was a lot more dirt bike-like than I was expecting. Like, obviously it's a supermoto, obviously it's a dirt bike, but a lot of people when they're looking at these, they're used to like a 450, like a CRF 450 or a YZF 450 supermoto, and they are wondering if this is going to be like a big, heavy, and not feel supermoto-like on those bikes. But it feels just like a 450. It really isn't much of a difference. The only problems I've had with the bike so far are sometimes the quick shifter is a little bit iffy, and like it'll go into a false neutral downshifting with the quick shifter, and sometimes it'll give me like a sometimes it'll read neutral while I'm not in neutral, so like the neutral light's a little iffy. But I think that might just be the transmission being broken in. It's been doing that less and less the more miles I put on it, so I think it's just a combination of new engine, new transmission, everything just needs to be broken in. I think that'll help a ton. I can't really speak for the power much yet, just because I've put 100 miles on it and I haven't really got past half throttle. I've been, like, I load it like that, and it definitely will get up and move. Like, there's, you know, 40. It has no problem getting up and moving, but I haven't really really opened it up yet. Like I said, I'm breaking in the engine. The thing that's my favorite about the bike so far is the traction control. The traction control works amazing. I can come up out of a turn and snap open the gas and it'll like slightly slide a little bit and then catch. Once the bike is broken in, I'm going to do a lot more in-depth review of the traction control. But so far, I absolutely love it. It works amazing. As far as first impressions go with the ABS, I'm definitely happy with it. I think it works well. One thing that's kind of interesting about it, it doesn't only just like ABS, like locking ABS, it prevents you from stopping as well, which is kind of nice. I don't know, I probably won't ever have it on, but it's like if you were a newer rider and you wanted to be safer on the bike, I guess, and you're not used to stopping. This is weird about this bike. You can sit here and downshift without your hands on the bars. That's so weird with the auto downshifter. The quick shifter definitely does not like quick shifting at low RPMs. Like if I'm doing a low RPM shift, I just use the clutch. I think the quick shifter is meant for like over 4,000 RPM is where I would use it. It seems to be a little bit boggy if you try to shift low RPM with it. Which, I mean, that's expected. That's most quick shifters. They're not designed to, it's not designed to be used at low RPM. Another kind of first impressions thing that a lot of people I haven't seen anyone else talk about, the rear brake is really big from factory. So that's nice. Like a lot of bikes, like on my KTM, I bought one of the aftermarket rear brake levers because they're just a little bit longer and easier to catch for wheelies. But this one, as you guys can see right there, it's pretty big from factory. I don't think I'm going to need to get another one for doing wheelies. So that's really nice. It comes with that. This is one of the best out-of-the-box bikes that I've seen. Like, out-of-the-box comes with the sick tires. Like, I haven't done anything to this bike besides take off the blinkers and a fender eliminator, and it rides just amazing. Another thing I've noticed, the seat's actually pretty comfortable. A lot of people talk about how uncomfortable the seat is. It's kind of hard, but once you get it a little bit broken in, I have no problem with this seat. I could ride on it for hours. It's no problem. Oh, the truck's getting it. What is this truck doing? What is he doing? Oh, geez. Typical California driver. But yeah, I'm definitely super happy with the bike. I haven't really found any major things that I don't like about the bike yet. I'll show you guys what I mean real quick about the traction control. Like it feels like it's about to low side, and then you just smooth out of the turn. Like it's not super choppy. Like some traction control systems are like really choppy, and it just cuts power, and you like feels all weird. I cannot wait to wheelie this thing though. I'm getting there. I'm like 130 miles now, so we're getting there. No reason to not break it in well. That's the whole point of buying a brand new bike, is so you can break it in how you want to break it in. There isn't anything massive on this bike that makes me hate it, but some other things that are just kind of annoying. It doesn't have a RPM gauge, so it's kind of hard to tell. Like when you're doing like over 60, the wind noise is so bad in a moto helmet that I really can't, especially with the stock pipe, I can't hear what's going on. I have a Tusk RPM gauge coming in the mail that I'm going to do an install video for. That'll be hopefully within the next couple of days here. So if you have a 701, definitely watch that. That's a mandatory mod. It'll help so much with breaking it in. This is a cool street. Another thing to note with this bike, if you're coming from another supermoto, like if you have a 450, the power this bike has for like highway riding is ridiculous. Like it reminds me more of a street bike than a supermoto for street riding. Like you can comfortably do 60, 70 miles an hour, whereas like my KTM 525, no way. Like when you were riding that thing on the highway, it was such a pain. And it's really stable at speed too. Like considering it's a dirt bike, it's very, very stable at speed. Even in riding mode 2, the throttle still isn't super responsive and snappy. Like, yeah, see, I mean, see how it barely even revs? So that's one thing I'd like to get for it for sure, is the tune to get it a little bit, because I mean, I'm in riding mode 2 right now, and like, yeah, I mean, it's not bad, but could be worse, but it's definitely not as snappy as I'd like it to be. Especially for wheelies. It's nice having a really responsive throttle for wheelies, because you don't have to snap your wrist all the way to wide open to pop it up. My newest bike I had owned before this bike was 2007, so a lot of this first impressions for this bike, you got to take into account my last bike was a 13-year-old bike. So like the things like the ABS and traction control, if you're coming from another new bike, a lot of that stuff might not be as impressive. They make a headlight replacement that just has a little bit of a flip to it, and that would definitely help with just like 50 mile an hour cruising, just so I don't have all the wind noise. And it'll definitely help to get a pipe. The stock pipe is horrendous for audio. There's some dirt bike bros. Let's go catch up to them. All right, come on, Camry. That sucks. That Camry. Oh, there they are. It's another 701. That was cool to run into another 701. You don't see that very often. Some people said you can still wheelie with traction control. I'll have to test that out and see, but like, yeah, here. So ABS is on and handful of brake. That is so crazy. Doesn't stoppy, doesn't slide. Just a nice controlled stop. Another thing, I kind of wish you were able to turn on and off the ABS while you were moving. But I mean, I guess it makes sense why you can't. But yeah, see, here we go. I'm in neutral. Neutral light's not on. That is weird. Why is that happening? See, the neutral light's just like, the transmission is a little funky with that quick shifter. I'm not too sure on this, I'll have to look it up, but I think the way they did the quick shifter is it's not actually a quick shifter. I think it's the gearbox is different. It's not a standard transmission that has a quick shifter added. I think they actually built the quick shifter into the gearbox, which might be why I have the problems with the false neutrals and stuff like that, because of the way they did that. First year is always gonna have problems. You gotta expect it. Yeah, so the gas light came on. I put gas in it around 20 miles. So I guess you'll get a little over 100 miles out of it, like 130 miles out of a tank probably. But I mean, like I said, this is all the miles I've done so far, and like none of it is like highway cruising. It's all been like city riding. So I bet if you were like cruising highway, you could probably get like 150 miles out of a tank. I got a lot of parts that came in the mail today, so I'm gonna make a video on installing that. I'm gonna go through some like common problems and fixes you need to do with this bike. So make sure to stay tuned for that.